movies, 3 rounds, 1 winner. Welcome to the Movie Battle Podcast.
Welcome. My name's Liam and joined by
Eamon.
And as you can tell from the title, the first episode is going to be pitting Tim Burton's Batman versus Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight. Very official. So do you want to start with the first category?
Okay, yeah. So we're going to go in chronological order. So Batman will be first, Dark Knight second.
This is round 1, basically.
So round 1 is music. So, music is by Danny Elfman.
Great composer.
Yes. I first came to know it for me, without me realising, was The Simpsons.
Did The Simpsons?
He did the theme to The Simpsons.
Oh, you told me that a few weeks ago.
And speaking of The Simpsons, if you go to Spotify and you go to the Batman soundtrack and you go to the rooftop track and you start listening around 27 seconds in, you will hear a passage of music that sounds almost the exact same as the Simpsons theme, as part of the Simpsons theme.
And was that like just part of the soundtrack? Was that actually, because I don't remember hearing that, was that part played in the film as well?
Oh, I think so. I mean, it's rooftop, so presumably...
Because just sometimes when they do soundtracks, like, there's parts that don't actually come into the film.
I can't remember if it was specifically used in the film or not, but it's definitely in the soundtrack. It's just interesting to hear him use and reuse similar passages of music or similar kind of techniques, the kind of staccatoing he kind of used.
I can't believe I didn't realise that he'd ever done...
it's so obvious when you listen for it. It's so obvious.
Like, I think a lot of Tim Burton's, like, what was that film with Johnny Depp and Edward Scissorhands?
Well, he's done about
pretty much all
7,000 films.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying with that one in particular stands out. The music in that one was really good.
Yeah, I think the only thing about Danny Elfman is that when you first hear him, he's amazing, but then it starts kind of repeating a little bit. Now maybe that's Tim Burton's fault more than Danny Elfman.
Maybe.
But in this, he was fresh, and I thought it was fantastic. Because I think what we have to remember as well, and this obviously applies to every round, but this is 1989. Now, outside of the comics, I'm a big comic fan, Liam less so. So, outside of the comics, Alan Moore and Frank Miller, saving Batman, for want of a better word, in the mid-80s, 86, Dark Knight Returns was released. And that kind of changed how people viewed Batman. And then Killing Joke came out, I think it was 88. I think Killing Joke was 88. Which is by Alan Moore. And they show this kind of darker, more serious side of Batman. But for most people, at this time, Batman was Adam West.
Yeah.
And so what Danny Elfman and Tim Burton were faced with was trying to change people's viewpoints from
family-friendly, colourful
children's show.
Although we should probably specify we do love that show, though. It is a great show. But I know what you're saying.
For a very different thing. Yes, yeah. In fact, I would sometimes argue that Adam West Batman series wasn't a children's show at all. It was just one of the greatest comedies of all time that just people never really understood, me included, until an adult. But they needed to separate Batman from Adam West, and this score sets the mood straight away.
Yeah,
it's gothic, it's dark, it's brooding. You can just
because even the opening, this opening of the film, I was even thinking, like, when the music plays, I'm thinking, like, when I think of Batman, when I hear that music, I just think Batman, you know. And didn't like the cartoon series,
the animated
kind
series,
of,
yeah,
was based off of that.
Uses
kind of,
a variant on this,
Yeah.
and
because that cartoon was one of my earliest memories of Batman,
Yes.
and that music kind of is in my head. And as you said, it was based off of the music used in this film.
yeah. Well,
So-
I think any '90s kid or even '80s kid, Batman the animated series is the pinnacle of animated television, and the theme for it was just perfect. But obviously, it was a variant of the theme for this.
Yeah.
But it suits Batman just so well. I mean, you couldn't have gone better, to be honest.
Well, like for me, like the bit, like I said, I loved the opening scene or the opening of the film, and that music that plays is amazing. But my favorite piece is when he's taking Vicky to the Batcave. That music is phenomenal.
Yes.
It's so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, it really. I mean, I think the word epic is overused a lot, but
Yeah.
it really does
For that
achieve
scene, yeah.
those.
Like that was actually probably my favorite scene in the whole film. It's that moment.
Yeah, no, I
I
can see
really-
it.
yeah.
And you pointed it out to me afterwards,
Yeah.
and you played it for me on Spotify afterwards.
I think it's like Into Darkness or
I think that's what it is.
something.
Something in the dark, something
yeah,
darkness in
or
it.
Unveiling Darkness, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and
Can't
it is a
remember.
fantastic piece. I think it's extremely listenable. Like, and we've both I've mentioned Spotify twice now. Like,
Yeah.
I would absolutely go in and just listen to. I mean, we're both classical fans,
Mhm.
so I mean, I'm sure that helps. But
But remember, we were like the other day. We were playing GTA, and we just played it. Remember driving it? Was that
yes,
night? Driving the car
up to the
up the
cannibals
mountain,
camp.
up that mountain, and
Yeah,
just with
yeah,
that music
yeah.
playing, it just like fit perfectly.
Yes, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's that kind of music that like it was perfect for that scene, but you could use it for so many different scenarios and it
Yeah,
would work.
no,
Like, just because it's so good to listen to. You know.
Yeah, no, I just think as a piece of music, it's fantastic. You know, just to listen to.
Mhm.
But as an accompaniment for the film, which obviously is what it is first and foremost. Like the point of a soundtrack or a score is to accentuate the viewing
Yeah,
experience of the
enhance
film.
it. Like yeah.
And that's exactly what it does. And as I said earlier, you know, to break away from that early perception of
Mhm.
Batman,
Yeah.
which it does so well.
Sets that tone. Yeah.
So I loved it, absolutely loved
Yeah.
it. Then in contrast, then we go to The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
The score composed by Hans Zimmer, who's
Another fantastic composer. Like
yeah.
I haven't seen Inception yet. I have to watch it, but
Crazy,
the
yeah.
music for that film is unbelievable.
It's sublime.
It's
yeah,
absolutely
it really is.
unbelievable.
Like Time is one of my favorite pieces of classical
Yeah.
music in the last 30 years.
It works for everything. Like there's often like I remember a few years ago, there was like a video compilation of Pirlo, and they've that music
Andrea
playing.
Pirlo,
Andrea
the footballer, for anybody who doesn't know, off the top of their head. Oh yeah, Pirlo. Yeah, everybody who watches Batman knows who Pirlo is.
I'm sure a lot of people know who he is who watch Batman. You know.
But Europeans maybe.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway, the point I'm making is that like that music was used in the compilation video, and again, it's kind of like what I was saying about the Danny Elfman's piece. Well, I suppose that's actually for Inception. So
Yeah,
we
we're
should-
talking
yeah,
about
we're talking about Batman.
Kind of gone off topic slightly.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, just we know who Hans Zimmer is. That's
Yeah,
the point.
Yeah.
But on this soundtrack, the soundtrack for The Dark Knight, I thought as I said earlier about the score for Batman, in that the point of a score is to be the benefit of the film
Mhm.
and to elevate the film. And that's exactly what this does. It's intense. It's
Yeah.
it's unsettling. In a lot of cases, it's unsettling.
Well, for example, like, well, I just could say, like, for me, like, the scene where Joker's giving the Scars story,
Mm.
and it's just kind of like, it's like,
Yeah.
it's building. I have a
Don't
terrible
worry.
impression,
We won't be having Liam sing the scores to every
No,
film.
but there's like it starts building, and you're just waiting for that kind of something is going to happen here, like something really
Yes.
bad's going to happen. You don't know what exactly is going to happen, but something bad's going to happen. And I think what was great about that music, it I guess kind of what you're saying is enhances the moment of what's happening. I think it possibly, maybe for me, it linked better with the characters. I think in The Dark Knight, to a certain extent.
You think
Particularly with the villains.
Mm.
I thought that, I thought the music, in that sense, I think with Joker, and There's a scene as well with Two-Face, Harvey Dent, at the end, where when he has Commissioner Gordon's son, and there's a similar kind of, it's like a build music, but it's not as harsh as the one with Joker. I think possibly because there's still an element of Dent in there, so it's not as harsh.
Yep.
Joker is pure anarchy, just
Yes.
one track mind, where Dent obviously Two-Face, so I think that was a really nice touch that I felt it wasn't quite as harsh, but it had that similar build, so it was like there was still an element of humanity or pureness in it, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know, this is something I noticed. And
No. I mean, I can see what you're saying. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't hear that at that moment when you say it, but I mean,
it's funny
the score
because
worked perfectly to evoke what was going on, to evoke the characters.
I think for me, I think the Danny Elfman score, I think, made me think of Batman more. But I think possibly,
Well, so wait, are you going to be voting now?
Okay, wait,
Yeah.
Sorry, getting ahead of myself.
How would you wished? Yeah, no. So just before we go to the vote on this, yeah. So I thought one thing I thought. See, looking back, and this is, I think, it was a victim of its own success in some ways, and I think this happens to any film or anything that's really popular, in that it's copied a lot, and so when it's copied a lot, it becomes cliche, and if something's cliche, it's generally not good. And this soundtrack, the whom,
yeah, but like what films have?
I mean, basically every action blockbuster since has done this type of score.
I'm not saying you're wrong, but maybe for me, I haven't seen a lot of blockbusters since, because I didn't pick up on that, and I think the fact that I'd only seen Dark Knight once.
If you listen if you see it,
I didn't notice that
in basically every kind of DC superhero film, except for Wonder Woman, like the soundtrack, and that's fantastic. But a lot of these movies have that kind of whoom kind of thing going on a lot, especially in the trailer. You're hearing the trailers all the time. But
yeah, I didn't. Again, I didn't.
But I think
so
it's harsh to criticize it for that, because it was kind of one of the first ones to do that. I feel. I mean, I could be wrong on that as well, but it's the first where I thought it worked perfectly. But I remember enjoying the score when this first came out in cinema. I remember enjoying the score more than I did second viewing.
I think that you kind of have to go on what it was like I think it's unfair to judge it because of what other films did after. I think that's a little unfair.
No. I'm not judge it based on what other films did after, but I think it's important to judge it based on the last viewing. Because I mean, if I was to say that, then would I say that the Turtles show from the 80s was better than Godfather?
Yeah.
No, but when I was 5, I would have said that.
Yeah, no, I guess that's fair enough. And the thing that it's kind of, you feel it's a little, I don't know if unfair is the right word, but just the fact that
I think we should just base it based on our last
viewing.
We probably should have discussed this beforehand, but I think just go with your gut. What do you feel is best? And for this, The Dark Knight, I thought it wasn't as listenable. It wasn't as I'm not going to be going to Spotify and putting this on. That's not going to happen. But I think we're ready to vote, and it's probably obvious, I think, where we're going to go in it. But Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think for score, I think the one for Batman was kind of more epic, and it certainly kind of had that Batman. As I said, at the beginning,
Oh, so you are going for Batman?
I am going for Batman.
Because you said The Dark Knight earlier when you were kind of leaning to your vote.
No, I was saying...
Okay,
I think...
let's try and keep a bit of a structure here. So, Liam, your vote is...
Batman.
Okay, it's mine as well.
Okay.
Batman gets 2 votes. Batman takes the day on music.
Music here.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously, it's our first episode, so the structure mightn't be perfect, hopefully over time
there might be some harsh cuts now.
Yeah.
There might be some harsh cuts where
the format might get more
smoother,
exactly, as we go on.
Let's see. Maybe better if we don't. I don't know. Let's see what happens.
Sure.
Okay, so round 2.
Action.
Round 2 is it is action.
That's good action.
Okay, yeah. Round 2 is action. Okay, so chronologically again, we're going with Batman, of course. Because the film wasn't suddenly re-released in that time we started this podcast, so it's still chronologically before The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So...
Do you want me to start with this
Okay,
one?
you start.
Yeah.
You go.
Okay. I didn't think the action, the action wasn't bad, but I didn't think the action was anything to write home about, for the most part. I think there was some really cool moments, but say, for example, I love the bit at the start where, with the first two criminals up on the roof, and he just picks one of them up, and he's like, "Don't hurt me," and he's just like, "I'm not going to hurt you." But it instantly, kind of conveys his power over them, and how fearful they are of him. He literally just picks him up. He doesn't do anything. He's like, "I'm not going to hurt you." But he's almost already, in what he's doing and what he said, he's already kind of nullified him. You know what I mean? That was a cool moment. But do you remember the first scene in the factory, say, when Jack has his accident? I thought the action there was very kind of stiff. I wrote down, I had like a plodding wrestling match, like a punch kick kind of wrestling match. It just seemed so standard, and there was nothing. Really...
I'll jump in here, Liam. The first word I've written down here in my notes for the action in Batman, the first word is wooden. Wooden fight scenes.
Yeah.
It was. I like you. I mean, moments. There are moments.
Yeah.
And I think, to be honest, more so it was Michael Keaton's acting that pulled off that kind of that intenseness.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking about that scene where we first see Batman, and
that was really cool. And it was almost a horror film.
I did love that moment where actually it starts off with a family, young family.
That was a play on
father,
Bruce
mother,
and his parents, wasn't it?
Yes, and son.
That was nice. Yeah.
Although I was surprised that he didn't stop them being attacked. That he actually got them afterwards.
Yeah.
I thought he would stop them, but interesting choice. But that sense of I mean, he was like a monster coming down.
Yeah.
I thought worked well, but that's not really action. It's more cinematography.
Yeah.
So I thought the action was really bad. Like the wire work, it's so stilted. Like it reminded me of, well, like you said, wrestling earlier. I mean,
it just felt like the punch
like
kick
Shawn
affair.
Michaels entering the ring in WrestleMania 12 or something. Like, it felt like it was just one. If you see Batman Descent, I mean, it's like he's going down an escalator or something.
Really, I didn't. I didn't kind of.
Yeah, and even the cloak, his cloak always stays out perfectly. Like, it never waves, and it never falls. I mean, it's just cloth.
Yeah.
How is it staying out perfectly? Maybe that's been a little nitpicky.
There was an amazing shot that I loved. Do you know where he's in the airplane and Joker's looking up at him with the gun?
Yeah.
I thought that was a really cool shot. You just see the plane descending down. It was actually, I was going to get to it, but it reminded me of the scene in The Dark Knight where he's on the motorbike and Joker's kind of waiting for him.
I did notice that as well.
I wondered, was that I get tribute,
an homage,
to it or something. But that scene, that visual was really. I did.
I thought that worked. Although I have to say, we're kind of jumping ahead. Well, we're not jumping ahead, but I thought. I mean, I loved the revolver with the massive barrel on it. I mean, it's a really humorous look. But I did think it was odd that one shot from that would take down the Batwing. And the Batwing is on screen for a max for 2 or 3 minutes.
Again, when I was watching it, I didn't think that, but now that you say it, there's probably a ridiculous.
I have to say, I do love that shot with the moon. Yeah, when the Batwing goes up and it forms actually it suggests, or the bat signal later on.
There was also another cool shot. Was later on he goes back to the whatever power plant or whatever it was, and he's driving out with the Batmobile. Yeah, and there's all the explosions. And you just see it kind of coming out. I thought that was, again, I thought that was a really cool shot. And, when it was exploding, it was like in the last half hour of the film, before he goes to the final. I can't remember exactly. I just remember he goes back into the power plant with the Batmobile.
The chemical plant?
Chemical plant, sorry. Yeah.
Did I even note here as well? I thought it was odd that I think it's called Axis Chemicals. Not Ace, because in the comics it's Ace Chemicals. Okay. I don't know why they would change that. Because obviously, Ace and Cards, Joker, blah blah blah. But yeah, it was just something I noticed. It was just odd. But speaking of comic books, I did love the nod to Bob Kane in it. Earlier, there's when Vicky, I think, first walks into the office. This is totally unrelated to action, but when Vicky first walks into the office, they're showing, they have an artist description of what Batman looked like, and the
Oh yes,
the artist drawing was Bob Kane, who was one of the co-creators
cool.
of Batman, which I thought was fun.
Yeah, it's nice too.
With Bill Finger, but as well. But where are we? Yeah, so the Batmobile chase scenes again.
Yeah,
they were just
I that as well. I just thought it was just
standard.
yeah, like just again, it wasn't like bad, but it wasn't like
they were
for
vehicles
Batman. You expect
moving on.
more.
They were vehicles
Yeah.
moving on a road.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Like
basically-
I will say like the because the action in Batman Forever I think is better. I know Batman Forever is seen as like and it is like
look, we might get there.
I'm just
at some
saying, like,
point.
just an example, like-
We'll get there at some
yeah.
point.
But yeah, I thought the action again was just fairly standard, and it's not as if like action scenes weren't as good back then. I mean, Terminator
no.
is still amazing to watch, and that was like over 5 years.
Yeah. There's no
before, so
excuse.
I don't think
Yeah,
this like
there's no
was
excuse-
89.
there's no excuse
so-
for budget. There's no
Yeah.
excuse for anything like that. I
Yeah.
mean, because Christopher Nolan uses almost exclusively practical effects as well. CGI. I don't think there's even any CGI in. Well, there is a little bit of CGI in The Dark Knight, but very, very little, and almost none when it comes to the chase scenes and the fight scenes, because Nolan is not a fan of
Yeah.
CGI.
There wasn't that just to finish up Batman just first, just one other bit.
What did you sorry? Okay, you go.
No, again, I think this was more of a visual. I guess it doesn't really fall under action. I don't know, but I just when he comes out of the chemical stuff, you just see the hand and the glove. Bits of it are exposed, and you see his fingers, the green.
Yes.
Does that count as action? I don't know. It was a cool
I don't.
visual.
It's a bit of a stretch to call that action.
Okay.
I mean,
I was trying to
if
find some positive to put in,
If that's action, then every movement, like Vicky
Yeah.
walks really well. Oh yeah, it's excellent action. Yeah.
Good action.
Yeah. No, I mean, and then like even like the final fight scene, like where he takes on like the huge Ray Charles guy.
Yeah.
Um,
I did like the bit where when he knocks him down the spiral.
Yeah, but
it was so high up. I did like that bit. That was kind of cool.
it's kind of odd that Batman murdered him though.
Yeah, I was surprised by that, but I guess
Yeah.
he didn't have any choice. I guess in the matter,
Well, he could have. I mean, he catches Joker about 10
Yeah.
minutes later. He could have
Yeah.
caught him as well.
I did like that Joker was dancing with Vicky as they were fighting. It was like
It was.
mirror. It was
That
like
was
a
nice.
choreographed kind of.
Mm.
The way they were kind of mirroring almost, kind of, it was like a ballet kind of thing going on, but it was like they kind of mirrored each other. I don't know.
And more waltz than a ballet.
Or waltz, sorry, yeah, I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I thought that was kind of nice.
Lima's our local dance expert.
But I thought that was kind of cool.
It was a good scene. It was a
Yeah.
good scene, but the actual action going on in the scene, I didn't think.
Yeah, it wasn't amazing, but I did like that shot where he knocks him on the spiral case in the wall, because I love spiral staircases. I don't know. I have a thing
Again,
for
the
it.
spiral staircase was stationary, so it wasn't really that the staircase was doing anything spectacular. But let's go on to the Dark
Dark
Knight.
Knight, yeah.
So again, I go with my first note here: night and day between the two. This is a phenomenal action film. I think I remember reading, and I mean, I remember just thinking it myself, and I'm almost certain Nolan has said this himself, but it feels like Heat. It feels like
I haven't seen that yet, but it is on my list. I really want to watch it.
such a great film.
Yeah,
and
but sorry, go. You can finish.
in many ways, I mean, because Heat is this phenomenal heist film, but also is probably most famous for Pacino and De Niro sharing screen. Well, they were both in Godfather 2, but they actually shared the screen for the first time ever in Heat. And
Of course, you have a Batman in there as well.
You know, but also you have one's a cop and one
yeah.
one is a criminal, and they come and they meet and they have this kind of face off. So it's very similar to Joker versus Batman. Like there's a lot of common themes running through the two films.
Did he say he was an influence?
I feel like he I don't want to say it 100%, but like, I mean it's so obvious. Like there's no way it wasn't. It's not that it ripped it off or anything, but just you can see the films just are cut from the same cloth.
It felt more like realistic as well, which I liked. Like it just felt like Batman lived in the real world. Like even in that scene, the first scene in the parking lot, I just the way he was punching and everything was going. It just felt like it didn't feel like a superhero. It felt like real life fight. You know what I mean?
It feels visceral,
Yeah.
and especially we have to remember this is 2008. This is like, and I'm a massive comic book fan, and I grew up watching and telling myself I was enjoying terrible movies.
Yeah.
Like a Batman and Robin. I remember loving that movie when it came out. And even stuff like a Daredevil with Ben Affleck. I remember like watching that and enjoying it. I mean, like, these are the lies we had to tell ourselves when we were comic book fans back in the day. But this was the first film that said, I don't care if it's only a comic book. I'm going to make a serious film with these characters.
Mm-hmm.
It was the first one to actually be respectful to the source material and to raise the film up to on about the same level as the best comics that have been written.
Well, I thought I completely agree with you. I thought the action was phenomenal, and I actually again, I'd only seen it. I think I'd only seen it once, and that was about 7 or 8 years ago. So I'd forgotten a lot of it, and I thought it was like Jurassic Park level for like thrills, like in a lot of the scenes. Like I thought it was really
I mean, there's so many aspects of it. There's so
Yeah.
many different scenes. There's never a scene that feels the same.
No, even the opening scene with Joker
Yeah.
and the robbery,
Yeah.
the domino effect of the betrayals. I
Yeah,
thought that was
yeah.
so cool. The
Yeah.
kind of one after another.
Great
after another.
ideas, and
you know.
then you have, I mean, like you obviously have the astounding chase scene with the truck
On the
flip and
yeah,
the
that
bike
was
and
so good.
all
Yeah.
of that, and you have the heist scene
Yeah.
where he steals Lau from
Yes,
Dux
and
Lau
when he
from
descends,
from
actually, when he
China.
descends from that height,
My God,
it's like he's literally like a bat.
Yeah,
The way the cloak folds,
and you can't help but see him gliding down that building.
yeah.
And to be fair, I think that was CGI.
You wouldn't have noticed.
I think I think it was. I remember watching a documentary.
No, I'm saying I didn't notice.
You wouldn't
I
notice.
didn't.
And to be fair, that's not. Obviously, they couldn't do that
Yeah.
with the effects in '89. I mean, just wasn't possible. But there are many cases or many examples in the film where
Yeah.
Batman is gliding through the air, and it's as I said earlier, light and day between that.
But even when
and-
they show him stand, but like when he's there earlier, I think before he does it, he's like observing the height, and you're kind of like, hell, like you really get a
Yeah.
sense of
Oh, yeah.
how high he has to
Yes.
jump from
Yeah.
to the other side.
And to be fair,
you know.
I think part of that is
he actually really
he stood there. He
I
didn't
was
jump,
watching
but
it,
he,
yeah.
but he stood.
No, but it seems he actually really stood there, like
Yeah,
I know
yeah,
he jumped, but it was still
he
like
was standing on the
I
edge
wouldn't
of
have done that,
building,
like, you
not
know.
a chance in hell.
But yeah, you're saying about the chase scene at the motorbike.
Mm.
That was like actually kind of felt like it reminded me of like when you play GTA and you're just going at like an incredible speed. You really felt like you were
Yes.
in the scene.
Yeah.
And that was a good like nearly 10 minutes, that scene. 'Cause
Yeah,
when they're chasing Dent and he's got the
just-
bazooka, Joker, and all that stuff as well. It was so good. Like
It's a perfect example of how, because action films often get a terrible rap, and people go, "Oh, it's a stupid action film," but it's a perfect example of how action can be done intelligently. It can tell a story.
Yeah.
It can be enthralling, and it can be as good as any piece of dramatic acting.
I think you hit the nail on the head about it being enthralling. I think you said if it's done well.
Yeah.
I think everyone loves
the-
a really good action scene, like, you know.
The point of art is to grab you,
Mm-hmm.
and that scene
Yeah.
grabs
Well,
you.
just like as I said, like my favorite scene ever in film is the T-Rex scene in Jurassic Park, because it's like cinematic experience. That to me is a cinematic experience.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's why you watch films. You out of the real world into this fantasy
Yeah.
world. But yeah, no, I thought it was unbelievable. And the truck flipping scene, and that was a real truck they used as well.
Yeah, that was done for real.
that was
It's
so
insane.
cool.
Absolutely insane.
Because again, I'd forgotten all of that, so that it was all new to me because it had been so long since I'd seen it. And I was like, hell, like yeah, I thought the action was amazing.
And even and then we've talked a lot about chase scenes and those, but also the fight scenes. Now, this maybe you may not have heard this, but people kind of have a lot of issues with this kind of fight scenes where there's like a lot of quick cuts where because usually when you're in a film, you either have an excellent actor who can't fight, or you have an excellent fighter who can't act.
Yeah.
And so, to cover the fact that Christian Bale isn't an MMA fighter, they have a lot of cuts, and so that it looks like he's fighting fast and fluid. And a lot of people give out about it. They say that, you know, it takes you out of it and it's much better. Now, yeah, look, it's great when you have a Bruce Lee or something, but not everyone's Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
I would err on acting first and the actual fighting ability second, because I think this film, it works great. I mean, the fight scenes work really well. I mean, are they the best fight scenes ever? No, but do they stand up to the quality of the acting and the quality of the chase scenes and all of that?
Definitely.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely,
I think it does. I mean, like the scene near the end where Joker has the hostages dressed up like
As the
with
the clown masks.
Yeah,
and
the
that,
clown
yeah,
masks,
yeah.
and he has to take them all the cops out.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic
Yes.
scene. But it really reminds me. You're talking about video games earlier. It really reminds me of the Batman Arkham Asylum games, especially when he's using the kind of the sonar vision.
Yes, yeah.
I don't think you've.
I haven't played. I've
no,
seen.
but,
Like, I haven't actually played it
you've seen
myself.
You've seen me.
I've seen
play.
you play sometimes. Yeah.
But it really reminded me of that, which are also phenomenal games. Yes, I just thought the action was absolutely incredible.
Yeah, same. Again, it was enthralling. It just hooked you, like, you know, and you know, often I would say you would sometimes think like, oh, maybe there's a bit too much action, but the film was like, what was it, 2.5 hours nearly? So like,
I think so. Yeah.
you had just enough action, like, you know, but there wasn't like, because sometimes I've seen films where like, I think the act maybe a bit too much action, but
Yes.
it didn't feel like
Yeah.
it diluted the film. You know what I mean?
No,
It was just
no, it
enough.
didn't. No.
And when you got action, it was amazing.
Yeah,
you
but
know?
when you have Christopher Nolan, Jonathan Nolan
Yeah.
writing a script, and you have Christian Bale and Heath Ledger and Aaron Eckhart and Michael Caine and
Yeah.
Maggie Gyllenhaal acting in it, and Gary Oldman and Morgan Freeman, you are going to have a good film.
Yeah. But even like, say for example, do you know that scene where Joker threatening to blow up the hospital, and like Bruce is in the car, you know, and he's not even, he's just as Bruce, like even like scenes like that, like, because you knew what was nice was you knew what was at stake.
Yeah.
If they didn't stop this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that
Yes,
itself adds.
That's
more,
actually a very
you know.
important point. You know, like if you look, you see a lot of like terrible action films like Transformers, stuff like that, and like you don't really know what the hell's going on. You don't care about what's going
Yeah.
on. I mean, I've tried to watch Transformers and I wasn't able to make it through it. I fell asleep the first time and I just turned it off the second time. But it's the opposite of in here.
Probably
because
the first person listening to this would be a Transformer or a fan.
But as you say, like the first piece, the action is to inform the story, is to accentuate the story, like the music earlier.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. Yeah.
It's not like it's almost like in a lot of films. It's like you had this beautiful melody in a song, and then you go on a 15-minute mad guitar solo that has no connection at all to the music, and then you come back again, and you're like, oh, what was the point of that? Other than to say that you could do it. But I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
And I think it's clear what we're going to vote for. But Liam,
Yeah, I'm going with the Dark Knight for action.
and I concur, The Dark Knight. So, a
All square, all
crucial round 3. It is nick and nick, as some people over here would say. And we go on to characters.
Yeah.
So, characters. Let's discuss the supporting characters first, and then we'll go on to the hit honchos. So, in Batman, the characters that stood out to me, outside of obviously Joker and Batman, were Vicky and Alfred. Were the two.
And I'd even say like Vicky really is a leading character, really, when you think about it. Like, I would say it's Batman, Joker, and Vicky.
Yeah.
You know, I understand like they're obviously the two, you know, main, but like she's like
She's an important
she has
character.
a lot to play in the whole thing, and also she's kind of like, you know, because as the film goes on, they're both kind of battling almost for her as well in the way, you know.
Yes, yeah.
In a sense, like, you know, Joker, obviously she's...
Loosely,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think, Joker was madly in love with her or anything.
No, but he wanted to kind of claim her, like, as his, like, you know.
Yeah,
what I mean?
but it was a part of a whole series of attempts to win and to get one over on Gotham.
Yeah,
and,
I think it was another way to play, to add more tension
Of course.
to Batman. But anyway, yeah, so, yeah, Vicky... Yeah, she sorry, hit my elbow. To me, I like that she's kind of like, for example, in that scene near the start where they're in Bruce's house and they're looking at the antiques, and her and I can't remember the guy's name. Her partner, the other journalist guy,
Knox.
Knox. Yeah, they're kind of laughing at like, oh, why have you bought this? Or they're kind of. It's funny. It's like he's the rich millionaire, but they're kind of being the snobbish ones, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
With that, I thought that was interesting that she was kind of. I don't know, she was kind of just like, going, why is he doing buying this? Why is he doing buying that? And then she, as it goes on, then obviously she kind of learns who he is, I suppose. You know, she finds out that he's Batman. I think there was kind of, I don't know, she was strange. I think she was a strange character. I don't know.
We just go back for a second to that scene.
Yeah.
Going back to that scene with the armory. The thing that struck me that I couldn't get out of my head was Knox and Vicky, right, are two like prestigious journalists working in Gotham, and neither of them recognizes Bruce Wayne. Neither of them know who he is when he walks in. They're in his house, and neither of them, they've never seen a picture of him before. Like the play-by billionaire of Gotham, and none of them know who he is.
Yeah.
I'll be honest, that struck. I just thought that's so stupid.
And another thing, I'm going to go with the. And again, these aren't criticisms of the character.
No, this is the writing.
Yeah.
Well,
no,
I mean, it is character.
Well, no. What I'm going to go to here,
stupid,
I actually think she was a very interesting character because there was parts of me that like thought, oh, she's a bit of kind of a bitch, but there was other times where she kind of brought humanity to the picture. And I just said, for example, so when she first meets Bruce, and then they meet up at his house, they kind of like a date, you know. And literally the next day, like, because she says like, well, when we meet again, and he's kind of like, I'm a busy man, kind of, so not sure yet. She literally follows him like a day after and starts taking pictures. Remember when he leaves the flowers down?
Yeah, it's a bit much.
Like, but flipping the coin, what I did like was, so when they meet and they have the dinner, which I thought was very funny on the table, you know, which is like,
yes,
pass this all. It reminded me actually of when we played on the life-size snooker table. It was like, what's the pint? Like, just sit up closer, you know.
Yeah.
But what I liked was they had that, and like, it was very kind of formal and very kind of, you know, uncomfortable for her. But then you cut in when he's like, do you want to get out of here? And they go to the kitchen. It's much smaller, and they're talking about Alfred, and you can tell she's a lot more comfortable, he's a lot more comfortable, and they're opening up and being kind of honest, you know, just talking natural. It's not all forced. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah,
well,
it showed that she was down to earth, and the money didn't impress her. She She wasn't going out with him because he was a billionaire. She wanted to go.
She wanted to get to know him, and even like that. Then we said like
Alfred
Alfred reminded her of her. Was it her father or her grandfather or something like that? She mentioned some remark about that as well. But I thought that was nice. You kind of saw, just, you know, kind of a, I guess, a nicer side, you know.
Yeah, and then speaking of Alfred, he sees in Vicky kind of Bruce's chance. At a life outside of Batman, which again, very similar to the theme. But one of the themes running.
Doesn't he even say, like, he says like how many, something about like chances, or like how many chances do you think you're going to get, or something like that. Yeah. You know, he kind of sees that this is I thought that and Bruce confides in Alfred a lot. He doesn't say she's really great, isn't she? That's nice for Bruce. He's one of it's those instances where he actually can just be himself with Alfred. 100% himself.
Alfred is this character that only really Bruce and Alfred understand. Nobody else on the outside gets it. Like, they see a rich, spoiled brat and his paid help, but really it's a father and a son, and also best friends, and also
obviously Alfred knows what happened to him when he was a child as well. Like,
but like, they've been through that. But you know, Alfred has, you know, helped him develop his technology. Alfred helps him, you know, in research. I've never really seen it in this, I don't think, but Alfred also patches him up as well a lot. You see that in The Dark Knight, but you also see it in the comics and the cartoons as well.
But yeah, definitely, I think Vicky was a very interesting character, and because we saw, as I said, like, I think we saw different sides to her, kind of, you know, and Alfred I thought was really good. Just the way he kind of, you know, Bruce confides in him, kind of like, I think it enhances Bruce's character as well, Alfred being there. So I thought of the supporting characters, they were the two. Again, I don't know if Vicky is
he's the character. Alfred is a character that exposes Bruce's to the audience. He allows us to see Bruce's weaknesses.
Yeah,
I mean, a character that's perfect is boring.
Yeah.
And that's traditionally why Superman has always been so difficult to pull off properly, because he's just too perfect. But Batman isn't perfect, but when we only really see Batman, the true side of Batman, I think, is when he's Bruce in the cave, because when he's Batman, he's a hyper version of himself, almost, again going back to wrestling, almost like himself turned up to 11. And when he's public Bruce Wayne, he's putting, although in this film, and this is something we'll get to when we get on to
Yeah, I would think about.
he's basically the same person.
Yeah, I have.
We'll go back to that. We'll go back to that in a sec. But through Alfred is the opportunity for us to see Bruce at his weakest. We see him at his most vulnerable, and that's what one of the things I love about Alfred is that he creates that opportunity for us to see him. And you always see Bruce at his lowest. He's always talking to Alfred.
Yeah. I guess we'll go over to the.
Yeah, we'll move on to
yeah.
the. Well, no, I think we just go.
We'll stay. Sorry, we'll stay with Batman.
Yeah, we'll stay with the characters in Batman. Yeah. So we'll move on to Jack Napier, isn't it? I think it's Napier. Joker.
Okay, Joker. Yeah.
Yeah. So things that stood out to me about Jack, and again, I'm coming at it from. Now, I'll be honest, obviously I saw this before I started reading comics, because I was 3 years old when this film came out, so I think I saw it at about 4 or 5, very age appropriate. But watching it recently, I'm going in with my informed knowledge from the comics, and so I'm noticing things that are very different. So, for example, Joker is very power hungry. Like he
wants attention.
He seems to be a regular person.
Yeah.
Because famously in the comics, Joker doesn't have an origin.
That's what I was about to say.
Well, he does and he doesn't.
Well, I was actually going to ask you that, because in this film, we actually do see a bit of his backstory. Like, you see that, like, he had an affair with his boss's girlfriend, and also, obviously, you see how he becomes. Essentially, you see how he becomes Joker. So, I wasn't sure, like, in the comics, had they, like, obviously the only time I know in the origin story in the recent Joker film, like, so besides that I didn't know. I know that wasn't based on the comics, but I'm saying, so the comics had never really done a
Joker,
how he became
we do
Joker.
not know what Joker's name is in the comic. At least, I mean, I haven't read every Batman comic, and I really, to be honest, I've only read, like, the greatest hits of Batman.
So did you think that was like a bold move to, like, give him an origin story? Did you think it was bad, or just
it's one of those situations where when you're an uber fan of something,
don't break it's
impossible to separate your perception from what's done. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, if somebody was to remake Stand By Me or something like that for you, and they did it and they completely changed it, even though I know it's based on a book by Stephen King, but if they were to change a lot of stuff, and even if it wasn't certainly for the worse, but if they change it, it would just feel wrong.
Yeah.
And in this, it feels wrong that Joker is a power-hungry mob boss.
Do you think that it loses a bit of the mystique on him?
I think so. Yeah, I think it does. No, that said, I really enjoyed Jack Nicholson's performance as Joker. Like, I loved the puns. I mean, because again, we have to remember this is 1989.
He was taking some of Romero, I assume.
Yeah,
from
very
the
much
original
so.
Batman.
Like, he is where the campness remains in the film. But it worked, I thought.
Yeah, but you were talking about, like, how he's very power hungry, but, like, I agree. Like, he's instantly competing with Batman. Like, do you know when he reads the newspaper thing about Batman, and he kind of says, "Wait till they get a load of me."
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of lines he gives like that where he's kind of just competing. And again, it's like, say, the thing with Vicky is another example of that, kind of them competing.
Yes.
But then obviously when he offers a thing about the 20 million or something,
I can't remember the
he
exact
offers some
figure.
money or something.
Yeah,
but again, it's him wanting that attention. And this is weird. I don't know what this is going to sound, but when I was watching it, this came into my head that, like, he's like, there's an artist in him almost.
Yes, very much.
There's
so.
a vanity, but also.
But there's also paintings used a lot in the background. Every time he's revealed, there's like a door opens and there's a painting behind him on the wall. Or when he enters a room, there's like neoclassical.
Or even when Batman shoots down his balloons, he sounds genuinely hurt. Like, my balloons, they're like part of his presentation of who
Yeah.
he is like. He seems genuinely hurt that they're shot down, like, you know.
Yeah, but and then also, I mean, he meets Vicky in an art gallery.
Yeah, and I like as well when he starts throwing the paint on the walls. It's almost like a variation of the calling card with the Murdoch in the Dark Knight, where he's like, "Here's my card."
Yeah.
I like that. It was like a variation on that. Like he's throwing the coloured paint of his face
Yes.
on the walls. It's like
And
another way of showing. And they paint that the head, the statue. It's like another way of kind of.
Yeah, it's an act of anarchy. It's
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
which again is.
But again, it ties into that kind of artistic kind of like he's almost like an artistic soul in a way.
Yeah, no, you
know.
can see that. He almost.
I thought I was going to come out with weird. I thought your reaction was going to be, "What the fuck are you talking about?"
No.
But yeah,
I see what you're saying. I mean, like he has a craft to his.
Madness.
I mean, even like, you know, the whole thing about the masks he has for his victims and the smile. I mean, I have to say, I do love that smile. I mean,
when he
that's in the
dies
comics
as well.
But also like when his victims are
Yeah.
when he gasses his victims and that smile, it's a very eerie.
Yeah.
It's very strong
Yeah.
image.
I think like Jack Reed was a perfect casting for it. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
no.
it was-
I thought he was excellent.
Yeah,
I,
no, he was
I,
really
I
good.
really,
Yeah.
I thought his performance was excellent. And
Well, like Jack Nicholson is one of my favorite actors. I think he's like obviously The Shining and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's
Yeah,
Nest.
yeah.
He's unreal. Like,
you know,
and
he's got some great,
you know,
great
he's a great
performances through the
actor.
years. And we'll go on to Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman.
yeah, I just seen if I had anything else just on.
Okay.
I just check. Because I had a couple of notes here. Yeah, it's I just checking. I felt like there was
Wow.
something.
The flow of this podcast is stunning, isn't it? It is.
well-
you'd know it wasn't our first go round.
Go on, Mug. Oh wait. Let's see here. No, go on.
Oh
It's fine,
God!
it's fine. I tried to make sure and because just sometimes
You know,
you think of something and then you're like, or something comes to you later. Like, "Fuck, that would have been a good point."
I
to
really
read."
should cut. I really should cut that out, but I think I'll probably
leave
leave
it in. Yeah, yeah. Go on to Batman.
Okay, so Bruce Wayne. Now we touched on it earlier, but the thing again, I'm going in informed from the comics. You know, also to be honest, Batman the Animated Series, because that is the best adaptation of Batman ever. There's no question about that. But Bruce is very confident and very charming as I'm going to do that again because I still rumbled. So Bruce is very confident and very charming. He's suave. I mean, he's jokey when he walks into the room we were talking about earlier. But
Well, yeah. When he hears them overhears them in the with the statues. You know, I like how he just laughs it off. Like he just like. You know, it doesn't. He's not offended that they were making fun of him. Like, you know, I
Yeah.
kind of like that. I thought he was like it showed him kind of again a little more relatable, I guess. You know, because you know he's this big millionaire, but it's just like he's not gonna show
Yeah,
he's this
okay,
millionaire.
yeah,
You know?
no,
At
I
least
can see
in that, I know we're going to get to Dark Knight, and it's a little different. But I don't know. I thought that was kind of just him just being, you know, straightforward, kind of well, like. You know, he just plays it off, kind of like, you know. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting in that scene.
Yeah, no, but I think I mean, yeah, I can see what you're saying, that you know that he's not what you would expect from a rich billionaire.
Yeah.
But
But he seems to have a sense of humor, kind of.
no, he does. He
know,
does.
which was
The thing for
interesting.
me though is that Bruce Wayne has always been the outside, the public perception of Bruce Wayne has always been a cover.
Yeah.
So that nobody would suspect that this
That
man
he's Batman,
would
yeah,
be
obviously,
Batman.
yeah.
But this is a strong, you know, willed, suave guy, and like he acts basically almost the same as Batman. You know what I mean? Like it's turned up to 11. Even like when Joker confronts him in Vicky's apartment, I mean he's basically Batman.
Yeah, although I have an interesting theory in that.
You tell me, and I'll tell you if it's interesting.
Okay, well, no, what I thought was cool about that scene, just because we're on it now.
Let the fans decide. Let the fans decide, and we'll see what happens over the next couple of weeks.
No, but like, I kind of thought like you're saying like that he's pretty much the same, but when he's Batman, you don't see him get as like say as vocally. Say, just in that scene, he's like, "Come on, let's get nuts."
Out of control.
Yeah, out of control. You don't see it as much as Batman, and I kind of felt it's interesting that it's like because he's as Bruce Wayne, he doesn't have his mask, he doesn't have the suit, he doesn't have as much power or aura. he had to kind of go that way,
Yeah, no,
which I thought was kind of interesting.
that's
you
a
know.
fair point. Yeah, no, I can.
It's kind of like in Scream when they have the mask, they're more scary, kind of. You know, he kind of had to push himself more.
Yeah, no,
because he
and
doesn't have the suit.
No, you're right.
you know.
And Joker is a maniac with a gun,
Yeah.
and it's him. Obviously, his life. It's Vicky's life.
Yeah.
So he's trying to do anything he can
Yeah,
to.
and like let's be fair. When you're in a situation where you might die, you know, who's to criticize? Oh, why did he do it like that? You know, I mean, it was a moment. Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
act on it now.
No, yeah, no, that in itself
know.
isn't bad. It's just for me,
Yeah.
it's just that Bruce and Batman should be very distinctive.
Yeah.
They should not be similar,
Mm-hmm.
and I felt they were similar. But I thought he was a good Batman. I thought that he. I mean, we talked about it earlier, but like that opening scene, he is menacing.
Yeah.
And he's scary.
But or even like, you know, when they go to the Batcave, when Vicky's in the Batcave and she's asking those questions, he just says nothing.
Mm.
That again, it was a real mystique kind of.
Yeah.
And I guess part of that was he didn't
yeah.
want her to figure out that it's Bruce, you know.
Yeah.
Because even when they go to the Batcave, you notice he has his back to her a lot, even though he still has the mask on.
Yeah.
Which I thought was something you would do, you know, especially with someone that you're close with, you know,
Yeah,
that you're
of
going out
course.
with.
Yeah.
You're going to do that.
Yeah.
But what I thought was interesting as well was they have that flashback where it showed that his parents were killed, and then Vicky comes to the Batcave. She's found out that he's Batman.
Yes.
And she says, like, let me in. And his response is just, I got to get to work. It's
Yeah.
almost like it reminds him, I don't want to put people I'm close with in harm's way. So it's almost like he's distancing himself because that memory, just been thinking about it, he's like, I don't want that to happen to me again with someone I love, you know.
Yeah.
So he feels like, look, if I'm going to be Batman, I don't know if I can let someone in that close again, like a family member, you know. I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, no. I think it was. Yeah, no, I think it was, and I've lost my train of thought. Okay. So,
Well, you were just saying you had just been finishing on how like you thought they were Bruce and Batman weren't different enough because usually, again, that's kind of where you were going. And, like,
yeah, no, sorry, I remember now. Yeah, so no, when you were saying about the reveal, about the origin story, about how Bruce becomes Batman, and so again, several times in this podcast, I've mentioned that. How they did it in the comics and they changed from the comics and this and that. So one big moment that was very controversial change was the fact that one was that the Joker has an origin, but two, the Joker killed Bruce's parents, and that does not happen in the comics at all.
Do you think that was a bad move? Or?
In this case, no, I don't think it was. I think it
really
made
says, like,
sense. I think it made thematic sense to keep them heading towards this end collision. That you raise the stakes again, like, oh my god, like you are the reason why I am who I am.
And similarly, when he's trying to rescue him and he slips out of his hand and falls into the chemicals, in a way, Batman is why, and also because Batman comes in and with the heist and that he kind of disrupts it. So indirectly, and I suppose in a way directly, he's responsible for Jack becoming Joker. Because remember, there's a line later. It's like you made me, but I made you, or I made you, and you made me.
No, exactly.
So yeah, again, thematically, that was cool.
I thought that worked really well, and I thought that was an excellent decision because I think what people seem to forget is that this is a 2-hour movie. I mean, we're talking about 90 years, 80 years of Batman comic books. I mean, a story you can tell even over a year's worth of comics.
Yeah.
You can tell a long form story that you cannot tell over in a 2-hour movie.
film,
So you have to compact things, and it makes sense then in order to do that, you tweak origins and you tweak this and that. And I thought it was a great decision, and I thought it worked really well, and it was revealed at a good moment. And it raised the stakes when it needed to be raised again. So I really liked that, actually.
And again, just echoing on what we said earlier when we were talking about Alfred, again, I like just the way he kind of confides in him, especially with stuff with Vicky. Again, that's you were saying like how he was too similar to Batman, but there we're seeing the real Bruce Wayne. You know, that's a moment where we're really seeing him in those scenes with Alfred, which was nice, you know.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I thought he was I thought Jack was a really good Joker. I thought Michael Keaton was a really good Batman. I had no complaints with him, really.
No, I mean, I thought both performances were really good. But we'll go on to The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
So,
starting with the supporting characters.
Yeah, so, Alfred. Let's go with Alfred.
Yeah.
I thought Alfred Well, I thought Michael Caine is fantastic in this film.
Well, he's never not good. Well,
No.
even in Jaws the Revenge, he's not bad.
Maybe we'll get there. I don't know. Jaws the Revenge versus a literal bucket of shit. I don't know, something. But Alfred. What I really like about Alfred in this is that he's sometimes in portrayals of Alfred, he's kind of portrayed as weak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's kind of like a frail
Old
old man.
yeah.
But this is a strong man who has an interesting past. You know, backstory of like, you know, maybe he was like involved in some kind of like some wars in the past, or was he working as a mercenary?
Yeah, doesn't he make some kind of remark?
Like he worked in Burma,
yeah,
and where he met somebody who was just stealing jewels and then just dumping them. Once he stole them, and he says, some people just want to watch the world burn. And Bruce then asked him afterwards, did you ever get the guy? Yeah, how? We burnt down the jungle. So Alfred has some darkness in his past.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't just some goody two shoes butler. Like he has, and that's obviously his military background. It explains maybe why he understands tactics, why he's able to patch up Batman so well, as a military kind of medic.
Yeah. And again, you do see, on top of that, similar to the '89 film, when he's talking to Bruce Joe about Rachel and that kind of stuff. You see, he's there that kind of that shoulder of support him to kind of confide in about his real life and real.
Yeah, like any good portrayal of Alfred. He's the father figure. He is the sounding board. He is the kind of moral compass. He is sometimes the person who pushes him on or the person who pulls him back, depending on the situation. But he's also, as I said earlier, we see Bruce in Batman. We would see Bruce, and we'll go on to Bruce in a minute, but we see Bruce in his truest, weakest, fragile form. With Alfred, and that was absolutely the case in The Dark Knight as well. After the death of Rachel,
I like as well with the letter. He doesn't.
It's a great moment.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. I thought that was really strong. He decided not to give it to him.
Yeah. Which actually, we'll go back to. Remind me to come back to the letter again later when we're talking about Batman.
Okay.
But we're going to Rachel. So. In Rachel, actually, something I forgot to mention about Vicky, which is important here, is and it's kind of a negative, but even no matter how good I liked Vicky, I like her character, and I like Rachel in this, but both of them do fill that kind of traditional damsel in distress role.
They're there to. I feel like, particularly Rachel, she's there to enhance Dent and to enhance.
They're not characters.
Bruce.
In their own right, they're there as just assets to improve
others,
Batman.
Which plays its role and it works. But I think them on their own as a character,
they're not.
You wouldn't
fully
say
formed,
that's the best character. Like, they work in the film fine, but you wouldn't say Rachel is one of the best characters in the film. You know what I mean?
Like she has. What we do have to remember as well, of course, is that The Dark Knight is a sequel. And Batman is the first of a series of films. So
Batman Begins, wasn't it?
No, I'm saying, but Tim Burton's Batman is the first film of a series of films, but this is the second.
Continuing on.
We've already met Rachel in Batman Begins. We've already met Bruce.
A different act, because I haven't seen Batman Begins. I don't know if I've seen it. Maybe I have, but I think I've seen it once. It was a long time ago. Didn't a different actress?
Yeah, it was what's her face? Tom Cruise's ex-wife.
No.
I can't remember her name. You won. Anyway, I'll Google it and put up on the screen or something. I don't know. But it was a different actress, yes.
Yeah.
But Rachel is in Batman Begins. Bruce is in Batman Begins. Alfred's in Batman Begins. So they have a lot of character development already established that they don't need to go into in this. Yeah. But Rachel is still, what I liked about her is that she loves Bruce, but she doesn't see a future for herself with him. She doesn't see Bruce giving up Batman, and she sees that. And she sees that. And she sees that she has a life with Harvey, and that the two of them will be happy, and they can have a family and be successful.
Even though it does seem that sorry, go on.
No, go on. It's fine.
To say, I think even though it seems that she probably does love Bruce more, but again, like you're saying, she sees a potential for a better life with. Yeah,
you could make that argument that she made kind of almost a practical decision in that she loved both men. Obviously, that was clear, and and she definitely was in love with Bruce in the first film, when she asks him to give up Batman, and I mean, he references it in it when he says, you know, you once said to me that when you're no longer Batman, you know, we can be together.
Yeah.
And it's funny because that's what Bruce is kind of working towards throughout this whole film. I never picked up on it as much the first few times I've watched it, but when I watched it again, I really see. Again, I'm going into Bruce now, but I'll just make this point that I've started it, that Bruce is trying to stop you, Batman. Throughout the film, like he's trying to find ways for there to be no need for a Batman.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't want the Gotham to need Batman.
Yeah.
He's like last case scenario, is what he's thinking. He is like,
Yeah, I do have stuff on that, and I'll get into it.
We'll
when we get to
go
Bruce.
back to that later.
I'll go into, yeah.
Yeah. So, what did you think of Rachel?
As I said, like, I thought, like, she worked fine in the film. You know, she worked as an ingredient in the film, but I think. See, when I was thinking this up. I was trying to think of like stuff about Rachel, and everything was about how it affected Bruce or how it affected Dent. It's like the consequences of what she does in the film. More so than
her character.
you know.
I agree. I think we've kind of laid it out.
But she works as an ingredient in the film, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, she works in a part of the film, but her character isn't exactly fleshed out very well. Before we go on to the three. Then
you want to talk about
we'll talk about
Commissioner Gordon.
Commissioner Gordon. I think his Gary Oldman is excellent as Commissioner Gordon in this, and what I really liked about it is. We hear a lot about corruption in police forces, and I mean even before all the crap we're hearing about in the last year or so. Traditionally you always hear about. I mean you see the film Serpico. Have you ever seen Serpico? Al Pacino.
No.
It's an excellent film, but it's about.
I think every film that we've mentioned.
Yes, Liam has seen a couple of films through the years, but he hasn't seen a lot of good ones, which we'll try to rectify through the course of this podcast. But Serpico is based on a true story. It's about police corruption. And so police corruption has been a thing for forever, basically, and it's always been a thing in the comic books, in especially in Batman Year One, which is a phenomenal comic book, very much informed Batman Begins, but also elements of this as well. Gordon and his son at the end with Harvey. That's pretty much taken straight out of Batman Year One.
Really? So that was in the comic?
Yeah. Not with Harvey, with a different character. Actually, with a cop. It's actually a cop who does it. But and the reason being is that I think he was captain at the time in the comic. Before he was Commissioner Gordon. He won't take the bribes, and the other cops, are like. They feel insecure, they feel threatened because obviously he could rat them out. If he's not on the take, then.
And do they know that he's working with Batman?
Well, at this point, Batman is only just on the scene, so it's Batman Year One. It's literally about how Batman became Batman. It's a phenomenal comic.
Because I was thinking that would make them more fearful if they knew that he was.
Yeah, no, but Batman actually it's funny because there's a nod in Tim Burton's Batman to we're running at the theories of who's Batman, and they have the Elvis and the chalk on the board. That's literally taken right out of the comic book. But about with Gordon, I thought he really carries that kind of the weight of that not knowing who he can trust in his own team.
But he's even an unsung hero in a way, because like Dent for a lot of the film. He's like a hero as well. Like, I mean,
absolutely,
and the sacrifices he makes, like he fakes his own death. Like his wife is dead. Like, so he really sacrifices a lot to try and stop Joker. And, and
he puts himself on the line all the time.
Yeah.
When he tells and he convinces the mayor or the then commissioner to trust Batman. I mean, it's very much.
If it goes wrong, it's all on him. Like, so he's a lot of responsibility on himself.
It's Gordon that's pushing that.
Yeah.
And I thought there was an excellent dichotomy of that kind of loyal cop, and also then he sees that Batman is the kind of what Gotham needs right now. But then, like, traditionally cops hate vigilantes. I mean, understandably so. So he's stuck in this middle, and he's trying to grab the best of both and bring them together because Gotham needs both.
And I'll touch more when we get to Dent, but that final scene as well.
Yeah.
The same. But they played off. I thought the trio, like, so Dent, Gordon, and Batman as a trio, I thought worked really well. And then those kind of talks on the roof and that.
Yeah,
I thought they had great chemistry, and it was it's another element in the film that I thought really worked, like the little stuff between them, between the three of them, like.
Yeah. Before we go on, I would just want to say Morgan Freeman was again just a class act.
Well, and what was cool as well, like you said, like, there's that kind of dilemma for Gordon, working with his vigilante. Like Morgan Freeman's character has at the end as well, where he's like, I can't do this, like looking in, listening in on all the conversations, and like, understandably, you would. I understand. Obviously, Batman is trying to do this for a greater good, but like, a lot of people wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Like, they just look, I didn't sign up for it. So that was really invasive. I know that moment. And then, like, the stuff, then the kind of more humour stuff with your man. Remember that scene with the guy who's like, thinks he knows that Bruce Wayne's like, so you're going
you think this billionaire with all the connections he has and all the money he has in his spare time dresses up and and he's the man you want to blackmail? Good luck with that.
Yeah, I thought that was brilliant.
It's really, really good. But one thing I when you say about the kind of the moral dilemma of like Lucius using this equipment, but actually when you say that, it reminded me about how when Batman goes to Hong Kong to get Lau back, because obviously China won't extradite a citizen to the US, so Batman has to work outside the law, but he uses that to his advantage. But obviously then there's the line that is he going to cross or not, and that machine is a perfect example of temporary crossing the line. But like, did he go? Maybe he went too far. I mean, like, I think Nolan is asking us to go, like, maybe he did go too far. It kind of reminds me a bit of a different vigilante, which you will not have read or seen, V for Vendetta, written by Alan Moore, who wrote Batman The Killing Joke, which is an excellent Joker comic book. But it's another story where they pushed you to ask, is he right? I mean, he's the protagonist and he's the quote unquote hero, but is he right?
But and you want to, I'm pretty sure you said earlier about we were talking about Tim Burton's Batman. Like you and again, the point you were making about Superman, you don't want him all to be like, yeah, he's 100% right in everything he's doing. None of it's wrong, and none of it is questionable.
Exactly.
And I think, great films do that. They make
the best characters, the best films are grey.
Yeah, again, like, obviously Batman is, you're rooting for Batman, but like, is everything he's doing right? Like,
No, and that's a question.
Yeah,
and
it's a good thing.
I think it's something that I'm sure Alfred and Bruce are asking themselves all the time. Like, are we?
And that's probably why Batman or Bruce is looking for ways to stop doing what he's doing.
Exactly.
Because the question, again, we don't want to go too much in because when we focus on Batman, but about like saying how he questions like what have I doing? Like, maybe it hasn't been right what I'm doing. Am I doing more harm than good? But we'll get to that, obviously. I think.
Okay. We'll move on to Joker or Harvey.
I think we'll start with Harvey.
Okay, we'll go with
just
Harvey.
because
keep the Joker and Batman for the last two. Okay.
These are just two small things just before I really kind of get into him. But I like that one of the first things we see of Harvey is him flicking the coin, and then after he has the accident, when he wakes up, the first thing he sees is the coin on the table beside him. I just thought, looking back, I thought that was a nice little touch. Like, it's almost like that represents the two sides of the coin, like him as Harvey, and then him as Two-Face. I just thought that was a nice little small thing, like just a little touch. But no, I like that. There's that scene with him and Rachel. They're like really talk. I thought it was interesting. They're talking of Batman a lot.
Yes,
like he's a big fan of Batman because that's understand from my point of view. I first discovered Two-Face in Batman Forever, so to me he was quote unquote a bad guy, and that was it. So seeing, and again, I said it had been about 7 or 8 years since I'd seen the film, so I'd forgotten a lot of the stuff with Dent.
Yeah,
I'd actually forgotten he was in that much of it. Before, as just as Harvey,
Yeah.
But I like that, like, he's kind of talking about Batman. It's Bruce then that's kind of playing I don't know about Batman. Like, you're the true hero.
Yeah, it's a fun moment.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's a fun
moment. But then I like that he's kind of almost, Dent's going down the same path that Bruce went down, and that he's going out with Rachel, but he's also being billed as this kind of hero of the town. And even Batman suggests, we need you to be the symbol of Gotham. Like, so he's being billed as this, like, hero, and he has a lot of respect. And I thought that was really good. And then you see he's going down a similar route to Batman.
Yep.
Like, does Rachel want him to go this far with it? You know, like when he says he's Batman,
Yeah.
you know, and she's like, why is Bruce letting him do this? Like, you know, so I don't think she's happy with that either. Like,
Yeah,
with him
no,
then.
I think Rachel is definitely worried about
Yeah,
some of the
that he's
signs.
going on a similar path, like.
And I think that's very much, I mean, obviously, he's Two-Face. He's
Yeah.
another man who has, you know, a public image, but then also a darker side to
Yeah.
him. And one traumatic moment changes his life,
Yeah.
the same way that Bruce's life has changed. Now, we see in Batman Begins how Bruce channeled that anger into this just pure passion and focus into becoming the greatest fighter, the greatest athlete, the greatest detective that he can be, and to use those skills and his money, his inheritance, to help the city that he loves, the city that destroyed him and made him at the same time. And Harvey's similar in that he is a man who's worked so hard to be where he is. He's disgusted by the scum on the streets, and he's doing everything he can to save the people, the innocents. But a traumatic moment completely sends him on the opposite path. Now, one thing, I mean, I thought Aaron Eckhart's performance is fantastic in it. I love Two-Face. I think Two-Face is a fantastic character. Like, I love him in the comics. There's a phenomenal comic written by Grant Morrison called Arkham Asylum: Mysterious House on Mysterious Earth. And in it, I love his portrayal, how Two-Face is portrayed in that. Just this kind of struggle for sanity, really. And this is obviously very much, you know, the beginnings of it, but just when you see kind of where Two-Face can go as a character, it's just really interesting.
Yeah, and as well, like he's built like as kind of a hero to people, like, you know, and you see in a way he is like I like that Bruce talks about like how, you know, Dent got all these guys off the street without using any violence, you know,
and
like this is an alter, like maybe this is the way forward.
And
like,
I think that in a way that's, I can't remember exactly when that happens, but I feel like that's a pivotal moment where Bruce realizes, I'm not needed anymore.
Yeah.
Like, this guy is doing what I can't do, and he's doing it without hurting anybody,
and
without
then,
breaking any laws.
And then on top of then to go into when he becomes Two-Face after that talk with Joker, where Joker says everything is about chance, you know, and everything is just about, you know, just something happens.
Chaos,
like, so,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So because then when he meets that guy in the bar, the guy, and he's
the corrupt.
And he's like, look, I didn't know they were going to do what they were going to do to you, and he says, funny, I don't know what's going to happen to you, and he just flips the coin. That's exactly, like, he's basically an extension of what Joker's thing is about. Because remember, Joker says, like, you know, like, I don't know how to lead. I'd be like a car, or I'd be like a dog chasing cars. I just do things. Things just happen. I let them happen. Let them play out. And Two-Face in a way is kind of echoing that.
Yeah.
To an extent, you know. I thought that was a really interesting kind of tie-in.
No.
You know, there's maybe a bit of influence there as well. Obviously, there's other elements that make him decide what he does. But I thought that talk with Joker about, you know, just it's all about chance. And that's literally what the coin is. You flip the coin, it's chance, 50-50, you know. Something will happen one way or the other.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, you can see how, I mean, because Joker wanted to do this. This is his goal.
Yeah.
Was to turn Gotham's hero into this.
Yeah.
Gotham's White Knight, as he calls him. I do have to say, even though I loved the character and I loved the performance, I did think that his psychological break, was pretty rapid. It felt a bit of a stretch to me, to be honest, that he would go from what we can see, a totally sane, well grounded, in a loving relationship and a great job, and he loses his girlfriend, and then he becomes that. Now,
but I think that's
overnight,
fair enough.
almost.
But if you flip the coin, no pun intended, the amount of stuff the amount of effort he put in to getting and stopping Joker, all that effort, everything, and then he promised Rachel, look, you will be fine. they'll get you. And then when Bruce or Batman's in, he's like, no. He's like, why not? Why are you saving me? Because he promised her that he would save her. And then when he says to Gordon, he says, lie to your son, lie to her like I lied.
It's a fantastic moment.
Yeah.
I'm not criticizing.
No, I'm just saying just to flip it, like looking from that side.
The only issue I have with it is how quickly he transitions. I mean, spoilers for Game of Thrones, but it reminds me of Daenerys as well. In like, she just flips from polite, semi-mad queen to
I understand
just
the
insane.
point you're making. I'm just saying that, like, for me, you can also look at it that way, that, like, because of the manner in which he lost everything, after everything he put in, maybe it possibly could have driven him over the edge, because he promised her that she would So I'm just saying, for me, I understand what you're saying, but I'm just saying that, look, I'm looking at it another way and going, it possibly could drive him that.
I mean, I've thought about what you're saying. I've considered that as well. I still think it was a bit of a leap, but that said, I still think it's an excellent character.
Yeah,
I still think it was an excellent portrayal.
And I just want to, on this final scene.
Yeah,
I think, like, despite all the stuff that Joker does in the film, that to me was the most unsettling part of the film when he says to his to Gordon to choose who do you love the most. Who you love the most. I thought that was really that's proper horror. I thought that was really
psychological horror.
Yeah, psychological horror. I thought that was a really hard scene to watch.
I mean, it's even.
The fact he grabbed, and like, who do you love most?
But also, making
him choose.
Even on a base sense, even outside of the whole, one of them but to die, choosing who is your favorite out of your wife and two of your children.
Yeah.
That alone is. That alone is a horrific thing to ask somebody. Say to somebody.
Yeah, exactly, and that to me was the most for all Joker does in it, that for me was the most unsettling moment in the film. And again, it plays on that, which I'm going to say about with Joker. It's like a social experiment. For me, Joker loves social experiments.
Let's go on to Joker
now, but that for me was an example of it. Pick one. Who do you love most? But that's a perfect way to go on to Joker and talk about him.
Yeah, because
I guess I'll start with that, about the whole thing. For me, he loves these kind of social experiments. It reminded me of, like, to him, it's like watching when we watch like a wildlife documentary and you watch the stuff where predators chasing something, and you don't know what's going to happen, and it's not something you're familiar with. That's what he wants. He wants people to act ways they wouldn't act. Like when he says, when the guy's going to say he's going to tell who Bruce Wayne is, and then Joker says, I want that guy killed, and whoever kill the guy in 30 minutes or else I'm going to blow up the hospital. And then you see these regular people, including a cop, regular people are just instantly turned into agents of chaos or anarchy or whatever, that he says. And I thought that was really just part of who he is, I thought that was a really cool aspect.
Yeah, no, I agree, absolutely. One thing I found interesting about his character, not a flaw now, but just something I found interesting, is that he says, now you talk about the animal analogy, and he uses dogs a lot. Yeah. Like, there's even a scene where he has his head out the window like a dog.
Well, after the truck,
he really has that kind of raw, natural, kind of a nature kind of almost subhuman kind of thought process at times. But I think he's also a contradiction. I thought of, as you know, the listeners won't know, but my favorite film ever is Taxi Driver, and there's a scene in it where Travis Bickle, the main character, Robert De Niro's character in Taxi Driver, meets this girl, and they're going for coffee, and she says, she quotes Chris Christopherson, and she says, "You're partly truth, partly fiction, a walking contradiction." And I really feel like that sums up Joker, because he talks about all the time about how he doesn't plan anything and everything is chaotic. Yeah. But when you think about it, like some of the heists he pulled off at the start of the film, but also even like his escape, getting caught by Batman, getting sent into jail, planting the phone in his stomach, then breaking out, like all of that was planned just to get Lau out. I mean, like, he planned things to an unbelievable level. Like, I would say genius strategist. So even though he claims to be chaotic, and he is chaotic, absolutely, he also can be extremely well organized and extremely suave. I think and intelligent in his decisions.
I think he'd need to be that, because otherwise he'd be dead long ago. Like,
that's clear.
There's no way he wouldn't be. But I didn't like. Again, it's like there's another scene like Joe with that cop, and he says like he says like, "Do you want to know?
Oh yeah.
Do you want to know?" He's like, "I knew your best friends for like maybe 10 minutes. You knew them for whatever years, and I know more about them than you ever did. Do you want to know which ones were cowards?"
Yeah,
like he knows what buttons to push in them, and that was just another
fantastic scene.
How
I mean,
he-
a fantastic performance.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, he won the Oscar for
Yeah.
it was the first comic book character, a role to ever get an Oscar. I think, and we know also
Joaquin being second.
Phoenix,
Yeah, which I love that film.
both for Joker, which
Yeah.
says a lot about Joker.
Yeah, it
really.
tells us the character.
But just one thing I want to say about Joker was. I mean, his entrance. Obviously, I don't mean the heist. I mean when he walks in to all the gangsters,
Mm-hmm.
and watch me make this pencil disappear. It's such an iconic
Yeah.
scene, and it's probably.
And you're curious as well.
over-
Because you know he's going to do something bad, don't you? Like, there's
Yeah,
something
no, you
fucked up
do.
or- yeah.
It's pretty been over-quoted and over-referenced,
Yeah.
but it still has tremendous power when you watch it. It's funny and horrifying. I mean, which is exactly what you want Joker to be.
And I also love how easily, and you wouldn't think it, but how easily he was able to take power away from Batman by
Yeah.
just saying, "Take your mask off, or I'm going to kill someone again."
Yeah.
And that's all he needed
Which
to do.
again,
like.
I thought
And you're
of
like,
Batman
no.
Forever, and Robin's in the circus, Robin and his
Oh
parents
yeah,
reveal
yeah.
yourself.
Oh, yeah, reveal yourself. Yeah.
Um,
But I loved that, like, and that's the start of him taking the power, and then when he's kind of trying to get Batman to break his own rules, because he comes to like that. He says like, "I don't want to kill you.
Yeah.
Like, what would I do without like this team is amazing. Like, it's like
No.
a chess match. It's like my move. Okay, now your move. What are you going to do? What are you going to do?" And like, it's funny because if Batman had broken his rules, he probably would have saved Rachel.
yeah.
You
No,
know,
yeah,
when you think about it, you know.
that's just briefly kind of in that scene where they're in the interrogation room at police headquarters, and again it's very much a reference or an homage, I think, to Heat with Pacino and De Niro when they meet and they go face to face and then they break away again. It's just a great scene because. Again, Batman is using everything. He's trying to use intelligence. He's trying to use his power, his force, and nothing is working. Joker has planned this perfectly. Like he's like, never start with the head, and he's hitting him, and he's just like the responses are the exact opposite of what Batman's looking for.
Yeah.
I mean, he's hitting every single button to drive Batman crazy.
Yeah.
And then, finally, he's like, "Oh, yeah, don't worry, I'm going to tell you. That's the whole plan.
Yeah.
I have this worked out perfectly. I'm just waiting for you to go off, lose your cool, show that you're human, show that you're not this perfect thing that the Gotham people think you are. And show that I've got you wrapped around my finger."
And in a way, can't you say Joker in a way wins?
I have that in my notes.
Because Dent dies.
Joker absolutely wins.
Yeah, Batman has to take the fall, so he's hated now
Yeah.
by Gotham,
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was extremely. Again, when I watched it the first time in the cinema, I was just gleefully enthralled. But when we watched it again recently, and again, the what Joker does to Harvey in this film is very much based on The Killing Joke by Alan Moore, and Joker tries to do it to Commissioner Gordon.
Oh.
It's a very famous story, and basically he shoots Barbara Gordon, which is Commissioner Gordon's daughter, and also Batwoman. Spoilers for Killing Joke if anybody hasn't read it yet. Yeah. Well, that's the start of the story, but I will go on to spoil a little bit more. So yeah, if you haven't read it, then you should, and
Come back and listen to the rest of this after.
Pause, order on Amazon, read it. Come back in 2 or 3 weeks and go and listen to the rest of the podcast. But in it, Joker's whole plan, basically the whole theme of the book, is that anybody can be driven insane with one bad day. That's the aim of it. Anybody can be driven insane with one bad day. So he tries to destroy Gordon's life and drive him insane. You'd really like it, actually. You should read it.
Yeah, I should. Because I loved Dark Knight, and then I loved Joaquin's portrayal as well as Joker.
Yeah,
so I think as a character, I really like the character Joker. He's a great character.
yeah.
So I think Probably should start reading.
And it's written by
films.
Alan Moore, who's like one of the greatest.
I also, yeah, he's like, what's the other one? Swamp Thing. I want to read that as well.
Yeah, and Watchmen and V for Vendetta, which I already mentioned. And anybody who's listening, read Alan Moore. But
This podcast is really just
welcome to the Alan Moore podcast, where we sometimes discuss films and we always promote Alan Moore. But I love the fact that Joker wins. I love the fact that he destroys Gotham's hero and Gotham's true hero. Bruce has one chance at getting out and living a normal life. He destroys Harvey's legacy. Yeah. He almost destroys.
Well, technically,
Gordon's
it
life.
Doesn't because. Well, technically, but he does. I mean, he tries to insane. He dies. Rachel's killed.
I won't say anything, but I will say is that
in the third one.
In the third one, there's something.
Okay.
But I won't say what it is. But because you haven't seen it yet, have you?
No, I haven't seen the third one.
And the third one isn't as good, but it's still a solid film.
Just it's hard. Like, I probably will watch it eventually, but it's just like Dark Knight was so good. It's like
the Dark Knight is definitely the best of the three.
Yeah.
But Batman Begins is an excellent film as well. But Dark Knight Rises is a very good film. Yeah. It's not an excellent film, but it's a very good film. But I love the fact that Bruce is driven to. So we move on to.
Yeah, I think. Just want to say, I really liked. I thought it was really cool that we got a scene with Joker and Two-Face in the same room. I thought that was really cool. Just want to say that.
And it's an excellent.
It's an excellent scene. Yeah.
But in that scene, Joker reminds me of your one from The Exorcist. The child from The Exorcist.
When he has the wig on.
He just. I mean, that's all I can see when I see her.
I think we'll move on to Bruce.
So with Bruce again, and we'll go back to Batman, Tim Burton's Batman, and we'll talk about Michael Keaton's performance. And one thing I've said already is that I thought that Bruce and Batman were basically the same character. Here they're not.
No, not at all.
Bruce is very much plays up that vain. Probably stupid.
When he comes in with those two women, so up himself.
When he goes in and he's like, let's move two tables together in the restaurant. It's like, will they allow us? Oh, they should. I own it.
But it's funny because you made a comment earlier, so I throw it in now. I had written down when I was doing my notes that it's weird. He even as Bruce, he's still basically wearing a mask. He's still not him at all. You know what I mean? It's like he's still wearing a costume.
That's why I said earlier, where you see Bruce, real Bruce, is in the Batcave, or with Alfred,
or with is it Morgan Freeman's character,
with Lucius as well, yes,
to an extent as well.
Only with people in the know.
Yes, yeah.
When he's Batman, he's a hyper version of himself, and when he's public Bruce, he's nothing like himself.
And I gotta say something because I know some people have been critical of the voice he does as Batman, but to me, I think it works because you would put on a really different voice, different as just so different from your own voice that I felt it made sense. You would really. He's trying to disguise as well, and it's distinctive. That's the Batman.
Yeah. Well, actually, Christopher Nolan said that.
To me, I think it was. I liked it in that I think it worked. That's what you would do in a situation
something that I've always noticed as I said earlier, I'm a huge comic book fan. I'm a huge superhero fan, but one thing I remember watching Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is excellent in it. He's excellent as Spider-Man. It's a really good movie, especially for the time when it came out. It really changed a lot of people's perceptions on what a comic book movie is. But one thing that always stood out to me is how in the hell would Mary Jane not recognize her boyfriend's voice?
Yeah.
Can you imagine? It's so stupid. Now I know. Look, we watch Superman and we don't go, "Oh my God, he took off his glasses and combed his hair differently." We allow for that. That's what Superman is. We allow for it. But when you're doing a really grounded, gritty film,
it's as I said near the beginning,
you have to
realistic.
You have to change it. You can't do it.
But there was little things for me that I really liked a lot. I love when one of the first scenes with Alfred and he's kind of patched up and you see how much damage his body is enduring, all the bandages, stuff on his back, bruises, which makes sense. You would be getting all these blows, you know what I mean? I thought that was really nice. And then I loved the little scene where he's in the office and he's just asleep because he would be fucking exhausted, up to maybe 2 or 3 in the morning, fighting fighting bad guys, but I just thought that little things like that I really liked. I was like, yeah, this would be happening, that would be happening. But I had a question though. So do you know like his company is like in negotiations with Lau's company?
Yes.
Is that a deliberate thing he's doing because Batman and Gordon in them sense that he possibly could be trouble? Or is that just coincidental that...
No, he did.
Because I think that was cool if that is...
He does. Yeah, he does it. He does it for
Does
Batman.
that, yeah.
He does it for Batman. To scope him out.
Scope him out and see, is this guy
Yes.
legit or is he like...
To see.
Yeah.
I mean, he does it all the time. He does it. He does it with Harvey as well. Like, so he goes to the restaurant. Like, he knows Rachel is... So he can find out, Rachel's booked there. He'll go there. He wants to talk to him. He wants to get close to him and study him.
See,
because he... Remember, like... as his and like Bruce does with Vicky, he's pinning his hopes on a normal life, if you want to find a better word, with Vicky, and Bruce is pinning his hopes, and Rachel even calls him on it, says, "Do not put your hopes of a life on me. Like, do not rely on me to be a one chance at a life."
Yeah.
But he is doing that. And he wants to get out. He doesn't want to be Batman.
He does, because even like when he tells Dent, I think I'm not sure which thing goes first, but he tells Dent as Batman, like, you're the symbol of Gotham, and then I don't know, was it the scene before or after that he shares a kiss with Rachel. So it's almost like as well he's like, look, you can take it on. I don't want it anyway. He's almost kind of presenting it to him. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. He's trading him.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Like, you can take the life now.
Yeah, and he wants that life, and he wants to. So he says, saying he's getting close to him with Lau.
Yeah.
He gets close to him there. He gets close to him at the function.
Yeah.
He's doing his best because he genuinely believes now that he is a good person,
Yeah.
and he is somebody that can save Gotham.
But I think that was something I had never seen with Batman or with Bruce, was seeing him like wanting to get out. I thought that was really interesting as well.
Yeah.
Again, because I keep saying it, but it was so many years since I've seen it, I'd forgotten all that. Like, that he was really looking a lot through the film, like looking for ways to get out, and just like, like Dent's doing all this great work. Like, maybe we don't need Batman anymore. As what I'm doing maybe more bad than good. Like, people are turning on him. Partly because of Joker, But again, all that was really interesting, like seeing this dilemma from like, maybe I should stop, like,
And you know what's interesting as well? Again, I didn't catch this the first time I watched it, or didn't notice it. But I feel like Batman isn't the main character of this film. Like, Bruce, Joker, and Harvey are the characters, the focus. And Batman is just a secondary character in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Like, he's involved in the action scenes. He's involved in the chases and the fights, stuff like that. But the actual real emotive scenes are almost all Bruce.
Yeah.
Which I never noticed before. And there's a reason why Joker's on the front cover of the
that's weird. I found that strange. Like,
but it makes sense because, see, again, what we have to remember is that this is the second film. The first film, Batman Begins, goes extremely in depth into Batman's origin and extremely in depth to his thought process and his mind frame and where he is, why he does it, where he does it, how he does it. All of that is explained in it. So we don't need to go over that territory again, and that allows us to go in depth in Harvey and in depth in Joker. More so Harvey, because Harvey is the one with the origin story. Joker is a fully formed, chaotic thing.
I think I know we're on Bruce, but I think that's partly where, in some ways, I was more taken to Dent, just because you see how he became this.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I think if you had watched Batman Begins before we watched Dark Knight, I think you'd see the connection the way I have it in my head. But I do think that Bruce is a main character, and I think Christian Bale does a phenomenal.
Yeah, I think he's brilliant.
He's a phenomenal actor.
Yeah,
I mean, like he's so good. But
again, like you were saying, that it is that thing where it's like, I like that he's very much making sure no one's going to realize that Bruce Wayne is Batman.
Yeah,
and you can see it.
Yeah,
obviously, because we're seeing it from a different point of view than everyone else in the film. They're the characters, so we're seeing how much effort he's putting into playing up to this like billionaire kind of thing. And again, and that's probably another reason why he's like, like I don't enjoy doing this. Like I don't want to
No,
have to.
can
Like,
you imagine
pretend,
the
you know?
strain that must
Yeah.
be on
So,
somebody?
like,
So every
who
day to
wouldn't want to
pretend
stop
you're
this,
somebody
you know,
else.
someone else can do
And
it.
I'm sure celebrities face that all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah.
But I mean, a man of such moral integrity
Yeah.
must struggle so hard
Yeah.
to pretend. Like there's a great scene in Batman Begins. I don't know if you remember. Is it Batman Begins? Maybe it might be Batman Year One, the comic book I'm thinking of. There's an animated version as well, which is excellent as well.
Mm.
It's really accurate to the comic. But in it, he's Commissioner visits him and he pretends he's drinking champagne, but it's actually just ginger ale because he has to stay fit.
Of course.
you know,
yeah.
yeah, there's a little thing like that he has to do all the time. Like he's always has to be on,
Yeah.
and then he always has to be on when he's Batman.
Batman.
So
But
it's
there was
incredible weight on one's shoulders.
another nice moment though when, again, just going back to because Joker's trying to push him to break his own rules, where he's on that the motorbike scene where he's like, "Come on, hit me, come on, hit me," and you see he's like, "Ah!" Like he really is tempted, and then the
Yeah.
last second he just stops.
Yeah,
You know,
and that
it shows that Joker is like putting so much stress in him. Like it
Yeah.
shows the power and influence Joker's having
Yeah,
over.
but it also shows
You know.
his vulnerability.
Yeah, it shows that he's human.
Bruce's
Again, showing that
vulnerability.
thing that like, he has weaknesses. He's not
Yeah.
perfect. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah, no. I think, are we ready to vote?
Yeah, that was the character. I knew the characters would be the.
30 years later.
Yeah, well, like to me, that's the most interesting aspect of anything is the characters.
Yeah. Okay,
More
so
often than not, anyway. Yeah.
Liam.
Characters, yeah, the Dark Knight.
Yeah, I think it's clear. With the
Yeah.
fact that we've been talking for I don't know how long
Yeah.
now, but I think a lot more on the Dark Knight
Yeah.
than we did on Batman. But yeah, it's not even close,
Yeah.
to be honest. The Dark Knight, Batman is a really enjoyable film and well crafted, excellent music, well directed. Some very good acting. I think Michael Keaton and Jack Nicholson in particular are excellent in it. I love. It's so ridiculously important in the history of comic book
Mhm.
movies. Like that's not to be underestimated.
Mhm.
Like it changed everything. Yeah. Okay. What did you think of Batman overall?
Yeah, I thought it was a fun film. I liked Michael Keaton as Batman, and I really liked Jack Nicholson as Joker. Again, I thought it was like a darker version of Romero's Joker in the Adam West series. But yeah, no, it was a fun film. I enjoyed it, but I thought Dark Knight was like a brilliant film. Like just, and like it didn't feel like just like, oh, it's a comic book film. It just felt like just a film that happened to have a comic book based on a comic, but it's just a brilliant film. You know what I mean? Similar to Joker, it's a character from a comic. But it's just a great
I
film.
usually say
You know what I mean?
that how people perceive people who watch The Dark Knight and the Joker finally understand what comic book fans have known for years, in that these characters are amazing and when treated properly tell really, really engrossing, captivating, intelligent stories. People think of Adam West and they think of maybe comics from the 70s where, you know, Batman fought a radiated orange or something. But comics, you know, now have some phenomenal stories, phenomenal characters, and these films are finally approaching the level of top comics. I wouldn't even say they've reached it. I'd say they're just below the level of the top comics.
I think it's my final comment on The Dark Knight though is like, I remember like when, so I didn't see it till I'd say maybe 7 or 8 years after it came out. And I remember everyone was saying like, not everyone, but a lot of people were saying like it's like the greatest film ever, this and that. So I think when I saw it the first time, I was kind of maybe expecting a little more. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it, but I think watching it the second time, I think I enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
So I actually watched it a few days after again.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I watched it a few days after again. I thought it was a brilliant film.
Yeah.
Like, I really, I think, I thought the characters were brilliant. Again, the stuff with Dent in the end with Commissioner Gordon, just stuff like that. I just really.
It's engrossing, yeah.
Yeah, it's really, as a story, it's really engrossing. And then on top of that, the action scenes are phenomenal. Like I said, it was up there with like Jurassic Park. that kind of level for thrills, you know, as well.
It should
So-
be. If it's not obvious, Liam loves Jurassic Park.
I love Jurassic. Yeah, well, no, what I'm saying is that like, it had both. So it had the thrills
Yeah.
with the action sequences, but then it also had these like fantastic characters
Yeah.
and this really compelling story between Batman and, you know, Joker, what he was doing.
Yeah,
and stuff with Dent
I would
emerging
say
in, you know what I mean.
it-
So it
it's-
had both mesh together. A brilliant action film meshed with like this brilliant story with these brilliant characters. Like
I would say
it's always
this,
gonna be a recipe
and
for
I
something
say
great.
this with pure respect. I would say it's blockbuster perfection.
Yeah,
It's
kind of like Jaws a little bit.
thrilling, yeah, in that it has excellent action and thrilling scenes, but then it also has phenomenal characters
Mhm.
and acting.
Yeah.
It has the writing. I mean, basically, it's an all-rounder.
Mhm.
It's one of my favorite films of all time,
Mhm.
and I think deserved winner. Okay,
So that's
That's,
officially the end of the first episode, first edition.
the MVP.
We have ideas for like other ones we're going to do in the future. I don't think we know yet exactly the next one we're going to do.
We have a list.
We have a list, though, yeah, of quite a lot of ideas.
But if people have suggestions,
Yeah, definitely throw 'em out there.
throw them in the comments. Do Spotify have comments? I don't know. I've never listened to a podcast on Spotify. I always
I
watch
have,
them
but I
on
don't just
YouTube.
comments. But on
Okay,
yeah.
on YouTube,
If you're listening on YouTube,
if you have a suggestion, throw it in
yeah.
there. I think we are legally obliged to say like, comment, subscribe. Yeah. I mean, if you want to, do, and if you don't,
If you don't, that's your
Don't.
privilege. Yeah, don't.
yeah.
It just again like obviously the first attempt. So apologies for any moments where we were kind of maybe lagging a
I
little.
think apologies for
Quite a lot.
the magnitude of pauses, ups, talking over each other, maybe even a few stomach grumblings. I'm not sure.
Essentially, we're just saying we hope, as I said, over the next couple of editions for it to be a little more smooth. if
We
get
hope
used
to
it.
bring it from maybe a -10 up to maybe -8.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's the aim, you know.
Okay. And until next time, the -8. I'm Eamon.
I'm Liam.
Good night.